Welcome, everyone, to the SoCal Classic Car Podcast, the exclusive place for insight into this incredibly unique car culture in SoCal and the personalities that drive it. Today's show features Simon and James Wehr of South OC Cars and Coffee, the biggest weekly car show in Orange County and, according to them, the country. Welcome, you both.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Wait, is that true that you guys have probably the largest weekly car show in the United States?
We've heard both the US and actually Barry Maguire was the one that said to me he thought it was the biggest weekly car show in the world. So and he would probably know as well as anybody because he probably goes to more car shows than anybody else. So
it's impressive. So I'd like to provide a formal introduction for both these fine gentlemen. We appreciate you coming this morning. Real briefly, if you didn't already notice, these guys have a slight accent. Simon and his son are originally from Australia. Since their arrival in 2010, the duo has quickly become a major player in the Orange County car show scene. Their event, which started only 2 years ago, if you can imagine that, now draws up to 1,100 cars, and it's just been confirmed by Jay, and 3,000 spectators every Saturday at the outlet in San Clemente. I've been down there a number of times. It's amazing. Its size has attracted celebrities, TV shows, automotive manufacturers with new and pre-production models. In addition to this weekly meet, Simon and James attend many automotive events and wrench on their highly modified Gen 5 Camaros. Awesome cars, guys. Simon is also the founder and president of the Bracketeer, which makes fire extinguisher brackets for cars, and we'll talk more about that. There you go. How's that for an introduction?
It's bloody excellent.
very impressive.
Very nice.
Can we use bloody, Jay, or will we just not sound good?
No.
I didn't think so.
We're not
kind of excluded.
we're not cool enough for that.
That's okay.
So I told Jason, I said the goal with the podcast is to bring people exclusively with accents, and so you guys are part of the club. I know eventually we'll run out of people with accents, but for the next 5-6 weeks, that's our goal. We don't care what they have to say.
No, all you need to do then is get us to host the show and we'll interview you because we're from
Yeah,
you
you
guys
have
have
an accent
accents.
to us.
You see?
Oh, really?
Wow,
Yeah.
that's brilliant.
You see?
Well, do Australians think that Californians have, cool, sexy accents, or no?
Well, I'm not going to look at you and say that, am I?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Well, at least not in the eye.
No.
Can't look you in there and say
No,
no.
exactly.
Well, it's a great bloody plan. So, Simon, let's start. Why don't you tell us about the amazing South OC Cars and Coffee in San Clemente? 1,100 cars, that's amazing. And what prompted you to adopt the event? I know that it kind of evolved from Irvine, closed down, went to Aliso Viejo, where I attended frequently, and then migrated to San Clemente. So give us some background.
In fact, the earliest iteration was actually Crystal Cove. Oh. And in fact, it wasn't called Cars and Coffee. It was referred to, and this comes from a couple of the guys who originally founded it, John Clenard, who worked at Ford as a designer, and also a guy called Tom Shaughnessy, both of whom come to our show now and see it as the I guess the continuation of what they first started. So they started at Crystal Cove, like so many other events, Irvine and Aliso included. People weren't behaving themselves as they were leaving. They had noise complaints that got shut down. Then they went to Ford's headquarters in Irvine. And the Cars and Coffee came along, according to John and Tom, was because they wanted to continue with the CC. They'd been calling it for Crystal Cove. Yep. So they looked for something to call it, and Cars and Coffee is where that first came from. So
were they the first Cars and Coffee?
That's what I believe.
California?
That's what I believe, if not one of the first in the world. Wow. So other people sort of picked it up and ran from it. And that's where James and I found it in Irvine. We first moved over here, and as an Australian, everything we do with car culture is, unless it's a full-day car show, it's Saturday evenings. So I'd go out cruising in my Camaro, looking for places, looking where to go. And
Camaro? Oh, yeah, in the US.
In the US,
yeah.
looking for places to go and not finding car shows. And then I stumbled across a website, which is the SoCal
Car Culture.
SoCal Car Culture. Dave Lindsay runs that.
Dave. Dave's
awesome.
a great guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
And it was Dave's website that actually helped us find shows, and Cars and Coffee in Irvine was one of those events. So we went there and loved it. I remember the first time we went there, we talked before we came in here about finding cars. We saw a Tucker for the first time, which just blew my mind. So we went there. I started to make a lot of friends, also car guys. And when that show closed down, one of my friends, Tony, who's got a lot of really nice exotics, happened to ring me and said, we should start something at the new Target in San Clemente. So this is going back, 5 years ago, I guess.
Yes,
So
like
is this
2014.
before Aliso
yeah,
Viejo shut down?
Yeah, it was
So you'd
before it started. Yeah.
Well, even before it started.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we started, he said this to me, I happened to be driving past Target and I said, I'll call you back in a minute. Went into Target, got permission from the manager to do something in their parking lot. Went home, built a Facebook page and got it all up and loaded and basically sent out a thing saying we're on this Saturday. Then said to all my friends, well, we're on. We're going to do it this Saturday. So we started fairly modestly, but we got the support pretty quickly of groups like McLaren and Lamborghini of Newport Beach. Right. And we started getting some really special cars along, and all of a sudden we're getting like 110, 120 McLaren P1s and exotics and stuff. So that's where it began. We ran that for a while. We got asked to leave it because it got too big for Target. They got nervous. They didn't get corporate permission.
Oops.
So Aliso had started. We basically joined Aliso, and we kept going there until we heard rumours of it closing down. We'd hosted a cruise on some Saturday nights leading up to that, and the outlets we knew loved us being there. So I approached them. James and I went and saw them and said, look, we think we can build something really special here, but please be prepared.
So it was somewhat of a
It's gonna be big.
preemptive strike. You knew Aliso was going to close
Yep.
down, and you said, let's start it up in a better location
Yep.
and
We
get
also-
all the permissions.
We also wanted to get formal permission as well because the venue at the outlets it was so much bigger and better than the one at Target. So we knew it was going to be huge, and we really didn't want to get kicked out with, at Target because we didn't have corporate permission, I guess. So we got kicked out of there pretty fast. We knew we'd get more than 120 cars. So
Sounds like a bureaucratic nightmare.
oh yeah, absolutely.
It can be, but I got to say, in terms of partnerships, we couldn't ask for anybody better than the management team at the outlets.
Oh, they're fantastic. Yeah, they're
just
great.
brilliant.
So, it's got to be a lot of work to put this on every week.
Uh-huh.
Or is it like a jet engine? You just pour fuel in and it shows up and it happens? Or are you doing a lot of prep work, both of you, during the week in preparation for the show?
So I think the car show itself it's not self-ran, but it's definitely less work than the preparation that goes into it. So content is definitely something that takes a lot of time, because I shoot the show and I edit all the photos and upload them all to Instagram as well, and just interacting with people on the platform, and my dad with Facebook and the YouTube and all that
So
stuff.
a lot of the work is social media then, James?
It
Is that what
is.
you're saying?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's how we really built a large demographic, and I think that's why it's thriving so well, because you have people kind of all demographics. You have the younger crowd that has, they can't afford an exotic, but maybe let's say they have a BRZ or a 350Z. That's modified. You have the younger people with money, and then you have the older people and the people that have.
You
more.
see him looking at me when he says that.
Well, because that's all you appeal
He started
to.
looking at me and he felt bad about it.
Yeah.
So then he looked at you because you still have some hair. That's not great.
Yeah.
So, or
He's getting
people,
there. He's getting
I've heard there's old guys with 49 Nashes that can't afford anything else too. Is that true?
They do have a warehouse of cars just across the street, which they should bring.
And that was, interestingly, that was a very strategic part of when we started this. We made the decision early on, and like typical father and son, we'll lock horns about stuff. But the one thing that we really look at this,
That never happens with Jay and I.
No, we don't fight at all.
on the way here. Yeah,
It's not arguments.
But the one thing we agreed from the beginning, that while we have consistency in our branding, I didn't want to have control over the way James wanted to market to the exotics, JDM, Euro crowd, just like, and that's the younger demographic, and he wasn't going to have influence over what I did
Classics
to the old farts, as I would call them. So the classics and the a lot of the just the older,
Restaurants.
So I think that in itself is both, or all groups of demographics feel that we are communicating specifically to them and make that attachment.
So you got multiple target markets that you're purposefully targeting.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Without just trying to put everybody in the same bucket.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the other thing I notice here, Jason, is it sounds like my model. It sounds like James is doing all the work, Simon's getting all the credit, which I support.
Yeah, well,
I wish that was the case.
No?
No, not quite. I mean, he does all Instagram, but then I'll shoot every event. I've got to walk the entire show. I video the entire show.
dear.
I've got to do the car of the week. Then I've got to go home and edit all of those videos. Yeah. James doesn't. I think we do as much work. He certainly does more through the week because he posts religiously with Instagram, which you have to do. and I'm a lot more lax. But then
Well,
Yeah.
The editing-
Instagram just is a beast of its own.
yeah.
So we're big enthusiasts about what you guys have going on social media. It seems like you really get it. You're focused. You do a great job. That's why we advertise with you guys at SoCal Classic Car Storage. We just think your property, your audience, super targeted and very active. And when you make
Thankfully,
a post,
yeah.
there's a lot of activity
Yep.
Yeah.
in your posts. So
Well, where are you finding success, as far as your social media marketing?
It really depends on what I post. So there are a lot of, we because we get a lot of influences of the show naturally, they kind of side with the more exotic crowd. So we have Daily Driven Exotics. You have people like the Anthony from Mad Whips that bring out their exotics, and that really helps channel a lot of love to the exotics that I post. But at the same time, if I post some old stuff like a rat rod or things like that, people just don't really see that on their Instagram feed very often. So that generates a lot of likes and a lot of interactions on the page. So I mean, if I post a Lambo or a McLaren, it's normally like around like 1,500 to like 2,500 likes.
wow.
And then a
That's
rat
incredible.
rod's like anywhere from like 800 to probably like 1,500.
So you're-
Because it's not a rare sight to see someone with a self-held camera, going around Cars and Coffee, just waving their pole at like everything that they see.
I've
That's
seen
me.
Simon
This
do that.
man, yeah.
Yeah, I've watched him do it.
And it's really interesting. We've talked about making the videos that we do at the show a lot slicker, and just doing it with better editing, and because I'm just using iMovie to do that, and a better camera and everything.
Right.
And once again, jointly we decided a lot of people watch the videos because they just want to see their car.
Yeah.
They want to see their car in the video.
Of course
so,
they do.
So that was the decision. Heck, I've even been known to shoot a Tesla in there. I mean,
What?
and that's just
For shame. Hey, tell us about celebrities at Cars and Coffee. One of the biggest celebrity I saw and met one day when I was down there on a Saturday was Dallas Raines. He had this Pantera he was real proud of, and what a nice guy.
He's lovely. Yeah.
He'll chat you up longer than you want to chat, and he'll take pictures with you, and he's every bit as of a nice guy as he appears on television as he is in person. But you probably have celebrities every week. Tell us a little bit about that, because everybody wants to know who's coming down.
It's really fun seeing the different types of celebrities. I'll let James in a minute talk about the YouTubers, because to me that's like a whole foreign language. But we get a lot of those guys, right?
Yeah, right.
In terms of higher profile celebrities, probably the biggest we had there was Jeff Goldblum.
Wow.
So Jeff's got a new TV show on Disney's new streaming service called The World According to Jeff Goldblum. And they reached out to us and wanted to shoot an episode with us, so we spent the morning with them, gave them the tour,
Awesome.
and did all of that. But we've also had Troy Ladd and from Hollywood Hot Rods, and Courtney Hanson, who
He's
was
awesome.
known from Overhauling. They did an episode of their series, The Ride That Got Away, with us.
At China last weekend.
We had Ed China, who used to be on.
Mike from Wheeler Dealers.
Yeah, Mike from
Wheeler
Wheeler Dealers.
Dealers, yeah.
So they've actually shot an episode at the end of Cars and Coffee, and then he's been in a couple of times.
Those guys have accents too, Jason.
They do.
They do have funny accents.
A lot of fun.
So
Good guys. I
we
love
get-
their show.
And we get Linda, Miss Hurst, who was famous. Anybody who followed drag racing in the
wow.
late '60s, early, she's a regular.
Wow.
And she'll always come along and say hello. And the older guys just love that. They really feel like they're rubbing shoulders with some royalty.
She's a huge celebrity.
Yeah.
I mean, she takes people back to the the drag races where my dad used to take me on weekends. We go to the Fremont drag races, and Muldowney was there, and all the greats of that era were and we just there was hero worship going on.
Yeah.
With these guys that were running their cars, and the closer you got, the better you felt, and
Yep.
the sounds, and but she's part of that culture.
Yep. She sure is. So that's kind of cool. And James can talk a minute about the YouTubers that we get, like.
Yeah, so we get Dave and Damon from Daily Driven Exotics out pretty frequently. We get Steve from Steve's POV who runs it's more of like a JDM base. It's a weird kind of mishmash of exotics that have been modified to look like JDM. You have Anthony from Mad Whips, Parker from Vehicle Virgins, and then a lot of smaller YouTubers as well, actually. But some of my personal friends, Jordan Bow and Sam Potoff, they're like two of my best friends who also do YouTube that come out religiously, like every week.
A lot of these YouTube people, I'm like your dad. I don't understand it very well. Jason obviously understands it, but are they making a living on YouTube? Is that what they're doing, or is it
absolutely.
is it augmenting their income, or is it their income?
Well, a lot of times it's going to be kind of split up from brand deals, merchandise, and then the ads that are played on top of their YouTube
Right.
videos.
Okay.
So I mean, it's not uncommon at all for YouTubers to be pulling 7 or 8 figures.
No kidding. 7 or 8 figures. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that would be between ad revenue on their videos, as long as they are CPO friendly, so that there's no like swearing in their videos, and they can appeal to anywhere from like 7 years old to 18.
Wow.
You have their merchandise and all that stuff, which it all factors into it. But the brand that they build up around their content and what they put out in themselves is definitely making.
Well, what I like about what you guys are doing is similar to what Jason and I are doing down here at SoCal. We're really focused on leveraging both young and old, because the future isn't in my mind. I don't even understand the present, to be honest with you. So Jason brings the present and what's relevant. And, like you said, Simon, I mean, some of this I don't really understand how it's materialized or how it's monetized. I don't really completely get it. But, without Jason, I'd be blind to it, and it would probably be a tremendous detriment to the business.
Yeah.
This podcast certainly wouldn't exist.
That's right. What's a podcast? I had to ask him when he first told me about this idea.
Yeah, right.
So what's new and exciting for South OC Cars and Coffee? I mean, get bigger, another location. I mean, what do you do? What do you do now?
Just consistently hitting record numbers, especially at this time of year, is really cool to see, because we get big weekends and we think, surely it can't get bigger than this, and then the next weekend's bigger and bigger. It's just kind of a snowball effect, and especially with us coming into holiday season, you have relatives of people in town. It's kind of the place to go on Saturdays, so we're just seeing a immense growth at the moment, which is really, really cool.
And a little bit scary, because we have run out of room. And people having to go park downstairs.
Right.
And
Is the car show downstairs as well now?
Get there early.
Yeah.
Is a car show downstairs as well now?
Yeah, or it has.
Inadvertently.
We just tell people we've run out of room. You either drive around until the park opens up, or you park downstairs. And so we're going to have to look at. I mean, I don't know that we can really expand it much more.
That's what I was wondering.
There is more parking space that's currently used for spectator parking in Ruby's, but I'm reluctant to ask to take that over. We may. I'd want to do that very carefully with full support of the outlets and Ruby's.
Right.
What I do know is Ruby's are magnificent to us. I mean, they showed up day one when we had 30 people with a trestle table, coffee and donuts. And that was the first thing that made a lot of people who came to our show feel like they were going back to the original Cars and Coffee in Irvine, because you didn't get that at Aliso.
You couldn't find coffee if you tried it at Aliso.
Yeah.
So and we, they treat us like royalty, because I mean, whether or not this is still true, but they say they've said to us they make more money on a Saturday morning than they do the rest of the week combined.
Oh yeah. And that was my question too. I was like, I wonder how much money the Starbucks pulls in at the.
I bet it's 5
Saturday
times.
morning.
And they're so nice to us. I mean, my wife went in there a couple of weeks ago just to get a cup of tea. And one of the girls in there recognised her and said, "Oh, aren't you associated with Cars and Coffee?" She said, "Yeah, my husband and my son run that. Oh, here, have this free mug and have this."
Wow.
So there's we really appreciate that. We don't expect it, but the appreciation that there is really.
Well, we better give them a trucker's hat when this is all over for SoCal, Jason. It sounds like.
Let them rep the brand.
Rep the brand.
Yeah.
Well, we could give them a sticker too. I mean, all right, we'll up the game a little bit.
We're still very old school here.
Yeah.
We still have apparel and stickers, but I mean, I don't know.
But we're giving it
Those are
away.
always still
Which
gonna work.
when I first started giving away all the tchotchkes at the shows and stuff, Jay's like, "Dad, how come we're not selling the merch?" I'm like, "What's merch?"
Yeah.
So anyway.
Funny you should say that.
This week, yeah.
Can we
talk about it?
Whoa.
We have the first week of December. We have our annual Toys for Marines.
Right.
And let's just say that people who have been asking us for stuff for a while may be pleasantly surprised.
Oh, that's
so
great.
limited numbers. So people have
Very
to be quick.
limited.
And
Get
we're going
there
to do
early. Bring a toy if you
Yes.
want some merch.
wrapped up. Well, they'll need to buy the merch as well. They won't be giving stuff away, but it'll be well priced and it'll be really cool. We've designed it together.
We figured, hey, we've put 2.5, almost 3 years into this May as well.
Well, if it's any consolation, Jay and I are on our third rendition of our stickers. And I think we've settled in on it. So
God, that's been such a process.
just a sticker, so hard.
Oh, I
Yeah.
hate
It looks
this.
great,
I
though.
hate that. I
This
like
one,
this.
right?
No, I hate this.
It's the one on the back of the laptop. That
That's
looks
it.
great.
Yeah, that's the third
I love
rendition.
it. I love
Thank
it.
you.
Looks fantastic.
What is he pointing towards the black one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So what, one of the things that I'm intrigued about always when I go to a car show, and I've seen it evolve over time, at least from Irvine to Aliso Viejo now to San Clemente as it relates to South OC Cars and Coffee, is the dynamic of what's changing. And from my perspective, my head's more in the classics like the 50s and 40s. Not too many people's heads there anymore. But what I see is the exotics more and more have assumed center stage in these shows, and the classics are interspersed, but they're not as prevalent as they once were.
Well, that's happening in our business as well.
And that's happening in our business as well. But that's our view. So what's your view? What's your take on what do you see in this evolution of a couple of years or maybe 4 or 5 years?
So
How we market it, honestly.
Yeah.
Because it's such a wide demographic. But all the other Cars and Coffees, I don't know if you know this, but they're all franchised. Like,
I didn't know that.
yeah, Cars and Coffee, Cars and then the and symbol and Coffee is trademarked.
Okay.
So they're all franchised. You have Cars and Coffee Palm Beach. There are a few other Cars and Coffee events. There's some in one in Minnesota, one in Texas. But those are all franchised. So they have a very, very good grasp on interaction with the more classic car culture.
Right.
So you look at Cars and Coffee Palm Beach or Cars and Coffee in anywhere on the East Coast, and it's going to be a lot more classic stuff. But because we built this show from the ground up, I think we did. It was a lot easier for us to grasp a much more diverse crowd. So
yeah, and I think one of the things with our show as well, you notice we always keep that front row for exotics.
Exotics, right.
And that's the intent of that is twofold. One of it is to give a real, for the kids, the key reason that my drive for doing this is community. I love doing this event for the community.
Right.
I get a real thrill from that. I love it when people come up and say, thank you, this is an important show for us or whatever, more than it is for doing it for myself, because for me it's work every Saturday.
Right.
I don't really get to enjoy it like everybody else does.
Right.
So I love the community aspect, and I love the kids. I love seeing kids do it. Now, I mentioned my friend Tony, who rang me and I went to Target. Tony's, when I first met him, was the first person I ever met with a McLaren. That's how I met him. I literally followed him into a parking lot to look at his McLaren.
Z Pizza,
Introduce
yeah.
myself.
You followed him into
Yeah.
Z Pizza, yeah.
And we
You had
ended up
McLaren
being-
envy and just, hey, you pull over.
and I'm not an exotic guy, but I hadn't seen one, and we've now become like brothers. We did a car show together the next time I saw him, and that we remembered seeing each other. And as an Aussie, I had a trunk full of beer, so we became instant friends. But he had his McLaren and his Ferrari there. James was probably 13 at the time, and I'm there with my modified Camaro, which is he's sitting there with a Ferrari and a McLaren. James is looking at him. He says to James, "Get in there, have a seat. Do you want to sit in it?" And I remember at the time going, wow, like I wouldn't let kids sit in my car. You're letting them, and it changed.
Remember when he took delivery of the Ferrari, and the first day, I think it was one of the first days that he had it, actually, he came and picked me up from a friend's house with it.
Yeah.
You came down and you picked up Sergio, and he picked me up.
Yeah, he had a brand new 458 Italia, and we were sitting in a bar having a drink, and James texted me, said, "Can you pick me up from blah blah blah?" Tony goes, "Hey, you follow me, I'll pick him up." Send him a text. So
God,
and
cool.
he's been like, and all of my friends are like that. But that to me was this indication of that was one of the things that got James into cars, got James into exotics. So back to the front row. That's so that when kids walk in there, there's this wow impression.
Right.
There's also the other reason we do it is, theoretically speaking, if exotics park next to other exotics, there's less chance of a door ding. Although on Saturday,
Here we go.
we had somebody in one Ferrari dent another Ferrari, drove off without telling the person, but everybody saw it happen, got photographs, got license plates, and it's just like...
Needless to say, that 812 super
So
fast
we're in the business of, being hyper critical of things like door dings and scratches and nicks. So we're super careful. We've got all the, the tools of the trade. We don't share it with anybody, but sometimes it's a two-man op.
Yep.
You see our shop. We've got Performanes, we've got McLarens, we've got Rolls Royces, and a nick is just not acceptable.
No.
But that's the clientele you're dealing with here.
Yep.
But you guys have got it all figured out.
It's kind of what motivates us to go to the gym,
Yeah.
lower our guts.
Is that because we have to push a lot of cars, Jack? We do.
No, it's because trying to get in and out of these cars and
oh.
not ding the Performante
Yeah, that's a good point.
or the the other,
Hey, so one of the things that I noticed you guys do quite a bit different than a lot of shows is that on social media, you guys aren't shy about letting people know that they haven't followed the rules, and either they're not welcome back or they've been given a warning.
Oh, those are classic, by the way. I love those.
Yeah. So
did you?
I guess
The shame posts.
the shame post. But here's my question: is in an ironic way? Is that what's enabling you not to get this thing shut down? Because it does appear that you're very sincere about not letting a bunch of people do smoky burnouts and rev their engines and all the things that usually shut these shows down.
So you notice this thing going on between James
Yeah,
and
all
I.
right.
Laughing.
So
Wow.
James,
Here we go.
James,
This
James
could be good,
does
Jake.
not like me doing the name and shame.
No. Do not say it like that. I like you doing the name and shame. I just don't like having to deal with all of the stuff all the repercussions that come my way because of it.
Oh, yeah, because
I'm the only one that has to deal with it.
He's, and
I've
I'm
three times
that
his
guy
following.
where, quite frankly, I'm a bit like you. I'm in my 50s now. I don't care what anybody
Slightly
thinks.
rough around the edges.
Yeah, and I'm very much that guy of, like, if you have a problem, man up, come back and talk to me about it.
Yeah.
Don't be soft through social media. Come up and talk to me about it. And we've had a few people there's been some classics over the years.
Right.
We had a group of guys in WRX, and the guy did something stupid, and I was standing there watching them.
That's a Subaru, right?
Yeah.
Trying to impress people. Is that what I understand?
Exactly, go figure.
Yeah.
So the first guy comes up, and I challenge him, point to the sign. He basically flips me off, and I said, "You're done. You're banned."
Yeah.
And then his friend does the same thing. So we name and shame them. We take photos of them, put them up. They get on social media. Some guy from who knows where goes, "Right, we're going to do a show takeover." Really? And so I've just gone, let's see how that works. Let me explain to you what will happen. There are gates at the entrance and the exit. The gates will be locked.
Yeah.
The police will be called, and we'll actually ask them to go through every one of your cars for roadworthy. And then this guy goes, "This is classic. Snitches get stitches, dude." and I looked at his profile, and I did
Snitches get
and he's
stitches.
sending me all this stuff in
It's a
private
classic.
message. So I capture all of these. I see he works for one of the major telephone companies as a store manager. So I literally email their human resources and their management team going, "Just thought you'd like to know the type of people you have managing your shops that are making threatening comments and juvenile comments while also posting on their social media that they work for you in a management position. Good luck sorting that one out."
James, now I'm beginning to see your concern. I think it's valid.
Yeah, see,
I
I
think
He's
I
on the
play
front
H-
lines here.
I
Yeah.
play HR for this show, definitely.
I don't even know what HR stands for.
well, it's
Hell reactions? Is that it?
yeah, it's something.
I don't think Dean knows
it's
that
like
either.
let's have a lot of fun and call it a business and not worry about nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys just got back from SEMA, right? And you
Yep.
had a big rollout of a bunch of new products for the bracketeer, which we haven't talked about. It's your business. You're the founder. You're the president. You got lots of titles. Your son's over there helping you out. What was the reception from SEMA? And I think you guys won a few awards as well, right?
We did.
It's a
we
couple,
did.
yeah.
So it's actually one product. It's a universal fire extinguisher bracket that probably fits about 95% of cars. I made a simple bracket for my Camaro, shared the design on a forum. People wanted to buy it. Ended up making a stack of selling them, so I invented the universal one, and now we've sold about 12,000 of them. And it's been used by national parks, fisheries and wildlife, all the companies doing autonomous vehicle trials like Uber, Lyft, Apple, Google, Expedia, a lot of big corporates for fleets like Amazon are using it in their own vans, and Siemens and all these other companies. So this was our first showing of the product at SEMA, and we took home 6 global media awards.
Wow.
So that's where the media basically media will turn around and go, we're going to walk the new products category, and we're going to pick the new products that we like and give them an award. So we happen to take home 6 for our one product, which is unheard of apparently.
Incredible.
So it was good, really, really good.
So the most important thing is, will they work in a 90 Bronco and a 49 Nash?
Oh,
That would be the ultimate
Well, it's
test.
going to need it in both cars.
Yeah.
Well, we have to look at the seat. If they're standard type seat rails or bolt-in seat frames, probably not. Is the Nash a bench seat in the front or buckets?
It's a bench.
Yeah, it won't work with the Nash, so it won't work with bench seats, but it probably would work with the Bronco.
Okay.
I'm sure it would.
Okay.
So
Well, I think there's room in the Nash, though. It does have the fold-down seats. That was an exclusive part of the design of the 49 Nash.
That's cool.
So you could sleep in that car instead of paying $2 or $3 for a hotel or a motel. But I think there's room for a fire extinguisher, and as Jay said, there's a huge need for it.
Yeah. Well, you know what I find fascinating with the South OC Cars and Coffee brand, and also with the Bracketeer brand, it almost kind of shows this new way of making a business model in the automotive marketplace, especially with social media, things like YouTube, maybe even TikTok, Snapchat, how these things are working. You know, what is now in creating a business model in the automotive marketplace?
So I'm going to let James answer to the Instagram side of things with Cars and Coffee, because I think that's a really important part of what we do. With the Bracketeer, certainly the way I've driven that business is Google AdWords has been a major part of why I've had a lot of success. If you go to Google and you put in, or any of the search engines for that matter, and you put in car fire extinguisher bracket, we will dominate that front page. We'll have the first product in for sale items. We'll have Amazon's listing of the product, etc. So for me, understanding how to control search engine optimization and then supplementing that with a good Google AdWords campaign is really, really
SEO
important.
and paid search, especially when you started your business, and at some point your reputation marketing will probably kick in. It probably already has, right?
Yeah, and then people start to find you, and people. We had, we're working the booth at SEMA, and some guy comes up with a badge that says San Francisco Board of Water or something like that, and he goes, "Oh, we've just put 20 of these in our vans. We've got another 464 to do."
Wow.
So we get a lot of people that even come up to us at the
Businesses.
show and go, "Hey, we've found your product," because they've looked for car fire extinguisher, and we're the first thing that shows up.
Jay's question was great, and I have a similar twist on that. Chicken or egg, what came first? The interest in running the car show at South OC Cars and Coffee, or the Bracketeer? And what was the idea behind the mashup? The first thought was, were you already running the show, and then you said, hey, this would be a great platform to kind of, really push our brand, or something else?
The first iteration of Target, the Bracketeer, didn't exist then, so it was certainly very independent. When we launched the second one, it was an intent to promote the Bracketeer.
Awesome.
But also, we put money into Cars and Coffee. For me, it also meant that it was the ability to make it tax deductible, because it was I'm seeing as the naming sponsor of the event.
Right.
So that was also a conscious decision.
Brilliant.
If I'm going to spend $1,000 on signs, at least I can. If it's promoted through the Bracketeer, I can claim that as a marketing.
Well, you
expense.
have additional expenses. You got to go get some more expensive cameras, to take videos and stuff like that. I mean, you got.
I've already spent my good amount of money on cameras and lenses and stuff.
Sure.
It's an investment, but you do.
Well, social media is not free either. Everybody makes it out like it's free, but there's a lot of promotions that you have to do. It's not like.
Funny enough, I've never spent money on a promotion on Instagram.
No kidding.
Everything's 100% organic.
Facebook, same thing. You've never promoted a Facebook post or anything
I don't.
like that?
We've done a few small, just
Maybe on
small
Facebook.
things on Facebook.
Right.
But generally, that's around events that might be charity events, like the upcoming.
Just trying to drive additional
Just trying
traffic.
to gain, just exactly trying to drive traffic to the show from Facebook. But I mean, the reception on Instagram's been fantastic. Everything on there is completely organic, and all the growth, the growth with that.
What content is working? I mean, of course, it's not just as simple as just simple point and shoot. How do you make things interesting? How do you grab audiences with your videos and your pictures and Instagram stories?
It's it's almost like an art form. You have to be able to frame up a photo nicely, and then a lot of editing goes into it as well. Color correction, kind of oversaturating photos so they do appeal to the Instagram demographic that wants to see these bright colors, and also just capturing shots that it kind of one off. I remember taking a photo with Damon from Daily Driven Exotics coming in his Lambo with Anthony from Mad Whips in his is Porsche, and between those two they have probably 10. Anthony and Damon probably have like 10 million followers together, and seeing those kind of massive Instagram giants, people definitely like seeing it, like seeing their influences on pages. And
it almost seems
that.
like everybody now these days is a Photoshop expert, a film guerrilla film student.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so.
You have to be.
It's just how it is.
To be successful in social media, you have to pick up
Yeah.
these skills or acquire somebody that has
Well,
the
I
skills.
think it's everything. I think people just want organic content.
Yeah.
There has been, we just got this podcast off the ground, so I have no idea where it's going to go. But, it's people want to. I think it's because people really want to make that relationship with you instead of just having some kind of other, product that you put together.
Agreed.
It's, I think it's a great way to just directly create a relationship with someone.
Yeah, go ahead.
When we look at the content that I typically use on the website and Facebook, for example, we have two. In fact, I'd love to just give a shout out to our volunteers of South OC Cars and Coffee, because they are the best people. We've had two photographers from the beginning, Jay Philibar and Robert Landry. These two guys have been wonderful. They're the guys that take all the photographs, end up on Facebook, and we use a lot of those on website as well. But also, I want to shout out to Todd and Bob, who are our guys standing at the front guiding people in.
Right.
It's just taken so much pressure off of us because we're
it's
not
so
running
much
around
better.
doing everything. So just a bit of a shout out to those guys.
Great.
But Robert and Jay spends a lot of time. Interestingly, Jay's actually colourblind. So he'll start the day by taking a photograph with a colour chart up against cars as the light changes. And that's what he uses. He'll spend, like James, hours grading his photographs.
Wow.
And he's colourblind and they look great.
Yeah.
Robert has a different eye. Robert's photos will tend to be darker, but they both have their own style, and different people like that style. And we specifically, in the same way that I don't ask James to do Instagram a particular way he doesn't ask me to do Facebook, we're the same with these guys. We let them do what they want to do.
So
because
are there pictures?
Organic.
Are there pictures? Sorry to interrupt. Are
Yeah.
they the ones that go on Facebook?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So
So
you have multiple posts after an event, right?
correct, we do. We'll end up with, last weekend was huge because we had Ed China there. And both of these guys were taking 200 plus photographs of the show. And then I get other guys that will just email me with some great photography as well. There's another guy called Pete who goes to a lot of car shows and sends photos.
Wow.
So we try and use as many of those as we can, and we don't cross-pollinate with what we're doing on Instagram, because most of what James shoots is actually in portrait mode. Whereas most of what everything these guys do just about is all in landscape mode. So
Well, I'm totally impressed with what you guys are doing and have done and have accomplished. But to produce it, it's much more of an effort and more complicated than I could ever have imagined. So I think one of the things that we've gained here today is some insight into what it takes to pull off what you guys are doing. It's incredible.
Well, it's a lot of work, but more than anything, what I love is doing something like you two, father and son, the ability to do that. I look at the ability of every Saturday morning being able to do something with my 20-year-old son. How many other dads have that opportunity?
Great point.
At 20, a lot of the kids are off and they've lost that contact. We're building memories every single week.
Right.
And that to me is the most special thing out of all of this,
I should have said that, Jay, but we are building memories every day, every morning.
Good ones?
Great ones. Great memories. So Jay and I work together 6 days a week, if you can imagine that. So every day is different down here for us. And these podcasts are great because what we're able to do is change our day and do something really exciting. And so, like Jay said, we don't know where this is going to go. But we want to really focus on the car culture scene in SoCal, just the way David Lindsay does with his website.
Yep.
And we think there's so many people admire what happens in Southern California from all over the world, right? Australia, I'm sure. As
Yep,
well.
absolutely.
And you guys probably have a lot
course.
of guests. So, our goal is really just to stay right here because there's so many interesting people, cars, and stuff going on. It's the Mecca.
Yep.
So why should we stray to, Florida or, not to say they don't have a lot of cool stuff going on, but this is really where we want to grow this thing and, blow it up.
How long have you guys been working together?
It's like 3 years now.
Yeah, 3 years,
Since
I guess.
April 15th,
Yeah.
2017.
Oh, that's cool. My dad and I have made it a year now. So,
Over a year.
Yeah.
But keep
We
in
do want
mind,
to rip each other's heads off every now and then.
Yeah, we do. We'll lock
That's how
horns.
it goes.
But I got to tell you, the first time we worked in a work environment together was at SEMA, where James worked on the bracketeer booth with me, and that was such a great experience because I went into it. Aside from going to college, James also is the general manager of a fine dining restaurant, so he's used to people interactions. And so he was coming onto the booth, and I was thinking, yeah, he's probably going to disappear and take photos the whole time, and I'm going to be stuck here. And besides, he won't know the pitch. And he came in within me watching me pitch it twice. Not only was he had my pitch down to the actual terminology, he's like me that in a lot of booths at SEMA, people walk past. I am not that person. If you walk past my booth, I'm going to make eye contact. I'm going to interact. If you try and look away, I'm going to joke with you. I'm going to go, what? My product's not good enough for you to look at? And we got so many people. He was doing exactly the same thing. Wow. So I was so proud of him. So appreciate it.
That is cool. We have some of the same stuff going on now. One of the things that Jason and I, Jason, my son, differ on is what we like in cars. So I'm going to ask you both, and I'm real curious. What are you into, James, and what are you into, Simon? I know your Gen 5 Camaro is awesome, but James, why don't you start? Tell us what. I know you got a Camaro as well, but what are you into? Where's your head, if you will?
Honestly, it is in the muscle scene. I love exotics, but I couldn't see myself owning one. I'd much rather, if I'm going to spend $200,000, I'd much rather drop an LSX 454 into my car, big twin turbos, fully gutted interior, just like track prepped. That's what I do with my money. I mean, I do love exotics. I love seeing all the McLarens and Ferraris come in and all that stuff, and I definitely appreciate it, but it's not something that I would like to own.
Your heart's not there.
Yeah, and if I can't shift gears in it, it's not something I want to own.
Cool. What about you, Simon?
For me personally, until I've modified a car, it doesn't feel like mine. So you could give me any car in the world, unless it was something, for me, the Holy Grail is a 1968 to 1971 HK, HT or HG Holden Monaro from Australia. If I could afford one of those, I'd have one. It could be bone stock and I'd love it. But for me, I picked up my brand new Camaro when we moved over, and first modification happened basically within a week.
Wow.
And warranty was voided within probably 3 months. And I've broken the motor 3 times. Three times. 3 times. But I love it. I love wrenching on it myself and love making it an expression of my personality. So that's the same for me. I appreciate everything, but I love modifying muscle cars myself. Specifically Camaros is my thing.
Voiding the warranty. I never thought of that as a badge of honor, Jay, but apparently it is.
It's not that hard to do.
It's pretty easy.
Somehow I beat you to it this time with this car.
Yeah, you did. But I helped you.
Actually, you know what? Yeah, it's fun though because we
now you guys lose your plausible deniability. Yeah. I didn't know.
No, we did all the stuff to our cars ourselves, which was cool because I knew that I wanted to do stuff to the motor in this one, and I actually ended up ordering a cam and then push rods, valve springs, and all that, all the goodies through Texas Speed. We actually put it in our garage over the course of a weekend, which was probably one of the worst jobs that I've ever had to do. And there's no chance, not a snowball's chance in hell that I'd ever do it again. But you know, the experience and the memories were very, very fun.
You didn't rip each other's heads off. That's good. You're still here. You're alive.
Yeah. Well, people want to know. I think at South OC Cars and Coffee, I think the answer is there, and the question is really this: is the younger generation going to keep car culture and the hobby alive? And I think that the answer is yes. What are you guys' thoughts on, who is the next audience? You talked a lot about how much you love the kids that come to these shows. What are they into? What is James's generation, because Gen Z, and I'm guessing I'm millennial.
Yeah,
Zoomers.
Zoomers.
We got a whole thing. We're just missing Gen X in this.
I don't understand any of this.
What are they talking about?
Yeah.
Hey, so
I'm surprised we haven't done that yet today. So, but what does the future look like as far as car hobbyists are concerned?
You feel this first, James?
Honestly, I think if we go all electric, I think some of the mechanical aspect of it will die off. But you see kids now more so than ever playing with RC cars with their brushless motors and upgrading those, and I don't see any difference. They're gonna go from their Traxxas, their e-Revo, upgrading the brushless motors and changing the wheels and the body on that, to going off and buying a Tesla, slamming it, putting it on rotiforms, doing all that kind of stuff. If we don't completely go all electric, as in the past, they're electric cars, we still went with gas. If somehow we stay with gas, I think it's going to stay alive more than ever.
So one concern I have about your generation and maybe Jason's generation is they're highly distracted by technology, whether it's their phone or iPads or laptops, whatever, digital domain is incredibly distracting. And so what I find is they're spending so much time there, they're not spending time with their hands. So I think that's a bigger threat to the car hobby than what are they into or what's the platform. Do you see that? Do you share that concern? Do you see any of that? Or
is this our okay boomer moment, right?
Yeah, okay, boomer. Yeah, I think so.
I mean, you're in it. Do you have that concern, or do you see
know
it?
what? Yes and no. I see more car pages popping up than ever. People, that go off and buy or their parents or them buy their Focus ST, or they go off and buy something like that. And because they want to have the content on their Instagram page, they'll do stuff to it.
Okay.
And
so sometimes it's about showing off that drives their, their activities or their behavior. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
I bet it's got to be harder. Now these days. I mean, shoot, it's so easy to work on. Your cars, Dad. I bet now you have to be at least somewhat efficient in computer programming,
software, chips,
software, everything like that, and probably even some electrical engineering with these new cars in order to modify them.
Great point. You got to have a different skill set.
Everything's forced induction nowadays too. So you go and you buy pretty much any car, and it's always the first mods that everyone does is going to be like down pipes, an intake, and a tune. Whereas with something like the older cars, for instance, you go off and you change like the intake manifold. You do more exhaust stuff to it, or you change the cam out, things like that.
Let's get the old guy's take now, Simon. What's your perspective on this?
Yeah, I think I agree with James. We actually, as we walked through SEMA, James and I saw the Traxxas booth there, and he commented because he had a couple of Traxxas cars when he was younger, and I said that is the thing that's going to secure the future, and we talked about that with the modifications. But I think. I agree with you about technology. I find the older I get, the less I actually like technology. I'm not a person who gets excited about a new. I never update my iPhone and my apps. It drives me insane.
Right.
Don't change it. It's working.
Yeah, mine lasts for 3 or 4 years. I don't know about you.
Yeah, exactly.
I can keep a phone that long.
Yeah, I'm the same. I don't want it update because I'm so time poor. I don't want to learn changes on the thing.
Right.
Cars are the same for me. If I could do it all over again, I wouldn't have a 2011 Camaro. I'd have a 69 with probably a big block and a blower and a couple of Holley dominators on the top that I can rejet myself and tune myself. Yeah. Mallory dual point distributor that I can change the timing on.
Right. What Jason was talking about earlier, right?
Yeah.
You know how to do it. You can do it yourself. You don't need a computer.
Exactly. I mean, and that's the thing that I love about it. But the one thing I'll say about newer cars is having pulled the motor out of mine and got it rebuilt and refitted the motor and worked on it myself, if you can strip away your fear of the technology, it's not that challenging. Right. I mean, I can't necessarily. I got a diagnosis tool, but I know the basics of how my motor works. I know that the MAF sensor is taking air into it. I know my manifold air pressure sensors determining what's happening from a pressure sense level. I know my O2 sensors are measuring the amount of gases coming out the back of that thing. So if I understand the fundamentals, if it starts having issues, I can go, okay, well, that could only be this, or this, And
so you've evolved as well.
Yeah, and I don't enjoy it as much. I mean, but by the same token, I had, when I fitted the blower to the Camaro and changed it, I probably spent $1,000 trying to diagnose an issue. Right. Turned out to be faulty injectors. I had a boat in Australia that had a misfire, and it wouldn't do it until it was in the water, which was an hour away. And I rebuilt that Holley 650 vacuum secondary top to bottom twice, went through 2 distributor caps, 2 sets of plug leads, 2 sets of plugs, rotors. And
sounds like my childhood. Just keep replacing parts at the parts store until you get it fixed.
You know how I fixed it? I sold the boat. 2 good days when you own a boat. The day you buy it, the day you sell it.
All right, I've got one last question, Jay. We're probably need to wrap, but here's an important one. Did you guys see Ford versus Ferrari, and what'd you think?
Well, I have a bit of a soft spot for it because I don't know if you guys knew the wonderful guys from Superformance, Lance from Superformance, brought 6 of the cars from the show. I got to drive the one that Christian Bale drives in the show, 2 Cars and Coffee, and my wife got to drive the one that Matt Damon drives.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They showed up there
on the way back. So I have a bit of a soft spot. The movie itself was awesome. Even if I hadn't had that experience, I love it. I think for me, it's right up there with the James Hunt, Niki Lauda movie. What was that? The Rush.
The Rush.
Yeah, I put it at the same level, which is a great movie.
Love that movie.
You haven't seen it yet, have you?
I haven't seen it yet. I was invited to the red carpet premiere, actually, which I'm still kicking myself that I couldn't go to because I had work.
Do you have a class or something?
No.
Where are your priorities, man?
Work, actually. Yeah. Work. I mean, yeah, school and work are just both equally important, but I did work that day. So I'm still yet to see it. I need to.
So my brother-in-law, he works at Chrysler in Detroit. He's been there forever. It's his career.
Yep.
His whole life, like a lot of people that work in the automotive industry. And his specialty is valve train. So he optimizes high-performance valve train on all their race cars, and he went and saw it. I thought, oh crap, he's really particular, super technical. He actually liked the movie.
Yeah.
Even though he had a few criticisms, he said, that was a really, really good movie all the way around, but a really good race movie.
Yep.
So, I think they pulled it off. Personally, Jay, what'd you think?
Yeah, no, it was really fun. It was a movie worthy of the big screen, and you don't really see a lot of those these days.
Especially car movies.
Yeah.
Car movies.
Yeah.
Well, I would say, it was probably the biggest achievement in like racing movie history. I think just the way that they made everything seem so real. I mean, when you're in the car with him and there's car crashes that are happening, you're like, whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like you're there with him.
Well, going back to what we said before, to your point, they didn't use as much technology as most movies are using, so they went away from CG and a lot of that, and so a lot of that stuff was real as opposed to too much technology. So I think that had a lot of impact to making it feel real.
I just never want to see somebody take to the trunk lid of a Cobra with a hammer ever again.
That was a bit disturbing.
Actually, it was funny when we drove the cars up there. I babied because the two cars that we took up. One of them, the one I drove, was now been sold to Miles. What's his name? The mental blank.
Ken Miles.
Ken Miles' grandson.
Really?
And I think the blue one that Sarah drove was being sold to, or son, I can't remember. Same with Carol Shelby's grandson or whatever.
Wow.
So we're babying these things, and I'm going down the 5 and I'm leading. I'm doing there's no speedo, of course, not working. I'm doing like 65, I think, guessing. Yeah. And we got there and Lance goes, "Why didn't you get on it?" And I went, you just told me it's just been insured for $200,000 because he goes, "If you saw the way this thing was driven,
trash,
completely trash, and we can always fix it again. You should have got on it."
I'm sure Lance wasn't too happy about that hammering on the hood either, but he
I
probably
think
had an
been
extra.
paid enough that he wouldn't have cared.
Oh, I see. Okay, all right. So, Jason, I think that's a wrap. Anything else from your perspective?
No. Anything we missed? Anything you guys want to add at this point?
Just it's great to have
Thanks
you guys.
for having us.
Having us here and being on board as sponsors. We see this as a partnership. We want to certainly do more to work with you to make our attendees aware of what you guys are doing. And this is a great way of doing it. We'd love to share this, obviously, on our social media. But
well, why don't you tell people where they can find more about you?
Yeah, so on Instagram, it's going to be @SouthOC Cars and Coffee.
And Facebook, South OC Cars and Coffee. And website, SouthOCCarsandCoffee.com. Very easy.
Yeah, and the Bracketeer?
Yeah, just the Bracketeer.com as well. Yep, thank you. Cool.
Okay, great. Well, thank you guys so much for being here on the show today. That is a wrap for us here at the SoCal Classic Car Podcast, also known as S3CP, for all you cool kids out there. You can find our podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify. Follow our RSS feed, or you can actually go to our website, SoCalCarStorage.com/media, to find all of our episodes for our podcast. And you can also visit us at SoCal Car Storage on our Facebook and Instagram page. Thank you so much for stopping by, and happy driving.